video will follow him for the rest of his life. People will always remember that video.
Well, either way, if you got to run to a private island because your evil doings is doing so much and they storming your house, it's one of these.
Video will follow him for the rest of his life. People will always remember that video. Well, either way, if you got to run to a private island because you're evil doings are doing so much and they storming your house, it's one of these. The entertainment world has been rocked by the latest developments in the ongoing legal saga surrounding Sen. Diddy Combs, and the drama just keeps escalating. Texture this a courtroom buzzing with tension, lawyers trading fiery arguments, and a piece of evidence so pivotal that it could make or break the entire case. Yes, we're talking about the infamous hotel surveillance.
Sean Diddy Combs is saying he's sorry 2 days after a video exclusively obtained by CNN shows him beating Cassie Ventura inside a hotel in 2016. And we do want to warn you.
The infamous hotel surveillance footage from 2016, the one that shows Diddy and his former partner Cassie Vent in what can only be described as a deeply unsettling encounter. The video, which has already made headlines and stirred public outrage, is now at the center of a heated legal battle. But here's the kicker. Diddy's defense team is claiming that the original footage no longer exists. Let that sink in for a moment. Sean Diddy Combs is saying he's sorry 2 days after a video exclusively obtained by CNN shows him beating Cassie Ventura inside a hotel in 2016. And we do
came here today just to tell the truth, so hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100%, the charges against me are 100% false, and hopefully due to time, we'll start to see that.
And we do want to warn you, according to Diddy's lawyers, the original tape, which allegedly captures every second of that fateful hallway altercation, has been destroyed. This revelation has sent shock waves through both the courtroom and the court of public opinion. The defense argues that without the original footage, there's no way to verify the authenticity of the video that was broadcast by a major news network. Earlier this year, they've gone so far as to accuse the network of tampering with the video, claiming it was edited in a way that distorts what really happened.
Civil lawsuit. Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, assault, and
a way that distorts what really happened. In their words, the footage was sped up, timestamps were allegedly removed, and the sequence of events was altered to paint Diddy in the worst possible light. If true, this could be a game changer, but of course Cassie's team isn't buying it. They fired back, calling these claims a desperate attempt to discredit what they believe is ironclad evidence. Came here today just to tell the truth, so hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100% that the charges against me are 100% false, and hopefully due to time we'll start to see that.
We are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly.
Hopefully due to time we'll start to see that. Let's rewind for a second to the origins of this tape. The survey footage dated back to March 5th, 2016 was reportedly captured at the now closed Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. In the video, Diddy is seen following Cassie down a hallway, a towel loosely wrapped around his waist. What happens next is chilling. He grabs her, drags her to the ground, and according to the tape appears to kick her as she lies motionless. The footage doesn't end there. It shows him returning moments later to shove her again before sitting down and throwing an object in her direction. The video is raw, disturbing, and has been described as gut-wrenching by those who've seen it. But with the original footage allegedly destroyed, the question now is whether what's left can even hold up in court. Civil lawsuiter Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, sexual assault,
which has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will stand trial on federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He'll be held in prison until then. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male sex workers across state lines to take part in recorded sexual performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence.
Was the victim of abuse, sexual assault. and Cassie's legal team led by attorney Douglas Wigdor has been quick to dismiss Diddy's claims, calling them nothing more than a disingenuous ploy to avoid accountability. Wigdor hasn't minced words, stating he's confident the footage accurately depicts what happened that night and will be admitted as evidence. Despite the defense's objections, he's also pointed out that Diddy's team didn't raise these concerns about the video until now, which he believes is a clear sign of de-erasure. After all, this is the same footage that prompted Diddy to release a public apology earlier this year, where he admitted his behavior was inexcusable and vowed to be a better man. So why the sudden shift in narrative? According to Wigger, it's because the video is damning and D's team knows it. We are not done. This investigation is.
Understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on side watch.
And D's team knows it. We are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly. The stakes couldn't be higher for Cassie. This video represents more than just evidence in a legal battle. It's a window into years of what she claims was a toxic and abusive relationship for Diddy. The tape has become a symbol of the mounting allegations against him, allegations that.
Now, to the latest on the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. This one has so many people talking. The disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment, as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we get here? Well,
allegations against him, allegations that have already led to a slew of lawsuits and tarnished his once golden reputation. And for the public, it's a reminder of the dark underbelly of celebrity culture, where power and influence often shield the rich and famous from accountability. But let's not forget the bigger picture. Here, this isn't just about one video or one incident. It's about a pattern of behavior that Cassie and others have alleged over the years. In her 2023 lawsuit, Cassie accused Diddy of subjecting her to years of mistreatment, from physical altercations to emotional manipulation. She even claimed that he paid the same hotel $50,000 to obtain a different set of footage from another incident, allegedly to cover his tracks. These claims paint a picture of a man who used his wealth and influence to control.
This is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, I mean, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in a jail cell right now, I think it really underscores the magnitude of what he's facing and the weight of the federal government.
Now, wealth and influence to control and intimidate those around him. Whether or not the destroyed footage is enough to derail Cassie's case remains to be seen, but one thing is clear. This story is far from over. A U.S. judge has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will stand trial on federal trafficking and racketeering charges. In May, he'll be held in prison. Until then, Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges.
To be expected, just the shock of this and the questions about what is ahead of us. I mean, how long is he going to be in custody? Is this an R. Kelly situation? Is he going to not get out for a number of years? Is he going to end up serving a long-term prison sentence from this? Or does he have a chance of beating these charges at a trial that could come, within the next 2 years?
Guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male workers across state lines to take part in recorded Soul performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team is pulling out all the stops to turn the tide in his favor. They've hired forensic video analysts to scrutinize the footage, hoping to prove that it's been tampered with. They're also arguing that the destruction of the original tape violates Diddy's right to a fair trial. According to them, the absence of the Original footage makes it impossible to verify its authenticity, which they claim undermines the entire case against him. It's a bold strategy, one that hinges on convincing the court that this single piece of evidence is so compromised it should be thrown out entirely. But here's where it gets even more complicated. The network that aired the footage has denied all allegations of tampering and insists that the original tape was retained by their
defendants. But there's also strategic reasons for the prosecutors to want him to have co-defendants, because right now he hasn't waived his right to a speedy trial, which would force prosecutors to take him to trial pretty quick, which they actually might not be ready to do. But if they supersede him and have co-defendants with him, it makes it a lot easier to pursue a trial continuance without him waiving his speedy trial right.
Their source, they publicly stated that they never altered the video, and that any claims to the contrary are baseless. This sets up a classic he said, she said scenario with both sides digging in their heels and refusing to back down. And while the court will ultimately decide the fate of this evidence, the battle over its validity has already taken on a life of its own, dominating headlines and feeling endless. Speculation stand that he has a shrink coming by his cell.
As you all know, I made a request today for what we were calling a gag order, and I'm not going to walk out of court and do anything other than live up to that.
Coming by his cell to see him several times a day, and now there's talk about putting them in. It's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on side watch. As if that weren't enough, this latest twist has sparked a broader conversation about the role of media in high-profile cases. Critics of Diddy's defense argue that his claims about the video are part of a larger effort to discredit the press and distract from the allegations against him. Others see it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of relying on digital evidence in an age where technology makes it easier than ever to manipulate footage. Whatever your take, one thing is certain: this case has become a lightning rod for debates about justice, accountability, and the power dynamics at play and celebrity culture. Now to the latest on the arrest of Diddy comes this one of so many people talking: the disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and
that's trying a criminal case in the modern times. A lot of evidence is on electronic devices, cell phone, tablets, computers, things of that nature. And the devices, especially if you have like external hard drives, 90-something terabytes of data on a single device makes me think some type of hard drive. That takes weeks to go through just for one device on its own. And
charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we get here? While all eyes are on the courtroom, the fallout from this case is already being felt far beyond its walls. Cassie's decision to come forward has
because I think, we have seen many photos, videos of Sean Combs, aka Diddy, through the Associated Press, through Instagram. And so to see him kind of in person after being in jail for 3 weeks now was pretty interesting, to say the least. And I say that by being that you would expect him to feel a little defeated, a little gaunt, anything like that. But it wasn't that case. He appeared confident. He stood tall.
Decision to come forward has inspired others to share their own stories, leading to an avalanche of lawsuits against Diddy. These lawsuits spanned a wide range of accusations, from financial misconduct to personal grievances, and many of them echo the themes of control and exploitation that Cassie has described for Diddy. This has meant not only fighting legal battles on multiple fronts, but also dealing with the reputational damage that comes with being at the center of such a storm. And yet, for all the drama and intrigue, there's a sense that this story is just beginning. The courtroom battles, the media frenzy, the behind-the-scenes maneuvering, it all feels like a prelude to something even bigger. Will the destroyed footage prove to be the smoking gun that derails Cassie's case, or will it serve as a rallying cry for Those who believe that justice...
I'm not going to talk about anything that I haven't said in court or in the papers. These are all great questions, but I'm just not going to get into it. So,
can you speak about your concerns about the leak and the video? You have spoken about that before.
I did it in the court papers, and I'm just going to stick to the court papers. As you guys all know, let me just finish. As you all know, I made a request today for what we were calling a gag order, and I'm not going to walk out of court and do anything other than live up to that.
And believe that justice must prevail no matter the obstacles only. Time will tell, but one thing's for sure. This is a story that no one can look away from. This is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from. We saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds, so to go from living in those mansions to being in a jail. So right now, I think it really underscores the magnitude of what he's facing and the weight of the federal government. Now let's dive into the next layer of this unfolding courtroom drama, because trust us, things are getting even messier behind the scenes. Picture this: while the battle over the infamous surveillance video rages on CN, Diddy CMS is stuck in a Brooklyn detention center.
It could be a disagreement regarding defense strategy. It could be a conflict. It could be a health issue. It really could be anything. And the paperwork doesn't identify it, nor should it. And the fact that Mark Agnifilo is still on the case and the other counsel of record leads me to believe that the judge is going to rubber stamp this motion.
Is stuck in a Brooklyn detention center, waging a completely separate war, one for his freedom before the trial even begins. And let's just say his attempts to get out on bail have been anything but smooth. 3 times now his legal team has marched into court pleading his case for release, and 3 times the judges have slammed the door shut. But why? What really going on here? To be expected, just that the shock of this and the questions about what is ahead of us. I mean, how long is he going to be in custody? Is this an R. Kelly situation? Is he going to not get out for a number of years? Is he going to end up serving a long-term prison sentence from this, or does he have a chance of beating these charges at a trial that could come, within the next 2 years? The primary reason for these repeated denials is the court's deep concern about potential interference with witnesses. Let's not forget
lawyers on the case. Obviously, a lot of the victims are female. They're going to want female lawyers on the defense team, especially during some of the aggressive cross-examination. That tends to be the conventional wisdom when you're dealing with victims who are alleged victims of sexual assault or abuse. And then it could be a conflict with one of the victims themselves. Maybe Agnifilo, maybe Rico consulted with them or even represented them.
About potential interference with witnesses, let's not forget we're talking about one of the most powerful figures in the entertainment industry, someone who has built an empire worth untold fortunes. The prosecutors have argued that Diddy's immense resources and influence make him a flight risk and, more importantly, a threat to the integrity of the case. They've pointed to what they describe as a pattern of intimidation, claiming that Diddy has used his power to silence people in the past, and according to them, this isn't just speculation. They say there's evidence that he's already been misusing his privileges while behind bars. If that's true, imagine what he could do if he were released.
I think it has to be the defense, the consent, because look, sometimes you can argue that this activity never happened, right? It wasn't me, defense. But this is not your typical sexual assault case. There are a lot of people there, right? There are people that are arranging sex workers. There are people that are setting up lights and cameras, booking hotel rooms. Obviously, Diddy has a large entourage. So
as he were released, but wait, it gets even more complicated. Diddy legal team has been pulling out all the stops to counter these accusations, insisting that their client is being unfairly targeted. They argue that the claims of witness tampering are overblown and unsubstantiated, calling them a speculative exercise designed to demonize their client. They even gone as far as to accuse the prosecution of trying to paint D as some kind of larger-than-life villain to influence public opinion. According to his lawyers, Diddy just wants the chance to properly prepare for his upcoming trial, something they say is nearly impossible to do from the confines of a detention center. But there's also strategic reasons for the prosecutors to want him to have code offend, because right now he hasn't waived his right to a speedy trial, which would force prosecutors to take up to trial pretty quick, which they actually might not be ready to do. But if they supersede him and have co-defendants with him, it makes it a lot easier to pursue a trial continuance without him waiving his speedy trial right. But Diddy's legal team isn't just battling the courts. They're also waging a war in the court of public opinion behind closed doors. Insiders say his team has been actively working to shape the narrative using everything from social media campaigns to strategic leaks to sway public sentiment. This isn't just about defending their client, it's about rebuilding a legacy that's been all but dismantled in the eyes of fans and industry peers. Rumors have even surfaced that certain celebrity friends and former collaborators have been quietly approached to speak out in Diddy's defense. Whether they'll actually do it, given the weight of public backlash, remains to be seen. As you all know, I made a request today for what we were calling a gag order, and I'm not going to walk out of court and do anything other than live up to that. At the same time, the prosecution isn't backing down. In fact, they've been doubling down on their own efforts to keep Diddy behind bars, citing new claims that he's been attempting to influence witnesses even from his detention cell. According to court filings, there's evidence suggesting that Diddy has been using coded messages in his written communications to reach out to individuals connected to the case. While his lawyers have dismissed these allegations as pure fiction, the